The fist stopped 1 inch from Harlan Colt's jaw. Not because Ali hesitated, not because he pulled back at the last second out of mercy or doubt. He stopped it there, held it perfectly still, and looked Harlan Colt directly in the eyes. 490 pounds of the most feared man on the underground fighting circuit, the man who had once compressed a Marine's rib cage so hard the doctor compared it to a car accident, was standing with his arms at his sides, completely frozen, staring at a fist that belonged to someone who weighed less than half of him. The convention hall went quiet the way rooms go quiet when 900 people simultaneously decide to stop breathing. It was September of 1966, and Muhammad Ali had just done something that 175 men before him had not been able to do. Not club fighters, not soldiers, not wrestlers who had spent their lives learning how to move bodies twice their size. 175 men, 18 cities, not a single one had made it to 10 seconds. The average was 4.8. The record was 9.1, set by a thick-necked heavyweight from Pittsburgh who held on longer than anyone expected and still ended up on the canvas with both hands pressed against his sternum, trying to locate his next breath. Now Ali was on that same stage, his fist 1 inch from a face that had never had to worry about fists before, and the only sound in the building was Harlan Colt's breathing. That breathing had changed. Everyone in the first 15 rows could hear it. At the start of the night, when Harlan walked out and bent a half-inch steel bar with his bare hands, his breathing was slow, bored almost. By the moment Ali's fist stopped in front of his jaw, that breathing was something else entirely. Harlan Colt was not his real name. Nobody on the circuit used real names in 1966. He was 34 years old, born outside Abilene, grew up on ranch work and rodeo before someone with money noticed how large he was getting and made him an offer that seemed like a joke. Travel the country, let men try to put you down. Walk away with 70% of the door. He said yes in 1963, and by September of 1966, he had been through 22 cities without losing an evening. His pre-fight ritual never changed. He walked out. He picked up the steel bar from the corner post, half-inch iron, bent it in both hands the way a normal person bends a wire hanger, set it down and waited. He never spoke. He never flexed for the cameras. The bent bar said everything that needed saying. The rules were simple. Survive 10 seconds. Stay conscious, stay on your feet, stay inside the ring. The prize was $80,000. In 1966, that was 4 years of salary for most Americans. The briefcase sat open at the edge of every stage, full of cash, visible to the front rows, and in 22 cities it had never been touched. Drew Hendricks had been covering boxing for the Miami Herald for 11 years. He called Ali on a Thursday morning and explained what he'd seen in Atlanta 3 weeks earlier. He described Harlan's record: 175 challengers, 4.8-second average. A college fullback from Gainesville, 250 pounds, lasted 3 seconds. A Green Beret from Fort Bragg who said nothing before the bell and was on the canvas at the 11-second mark staring at the ceiling with the expression of a man who has just revised his understanding of himself. Ali listened. He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "How does he start?" Drew described it. Harlan rushes, both arms wide, low center of gravity, straight forward. He tries to wrap his arms around the challenger and lift. Once your feet leave the ground, the geometry changes and there is nothing your training prepares you for. Ali was quiet again. Then he asked, "When his arms go wide like that, what's in the middle?" Drew thought about it. "Nothing, just chest." "Get me one ticket," Ali said. "Angelo gets the other one." Angelo Dundee did not want to go. He said so on the drive over and again in the parking lot, and one final time as they walked through the main doors of the Miami Beach Convention Hall. His position was not unreasonable. The Cleveland Williams fight was 8 weeks out. If something went wrong on a carnival stage, there was no Cleveland Williams fight. Angelo had spent his career keeping good fighters away from exactly this kind of situation. Ali heard all of it. He always listened to Angelo. Then he said, "I just want to watch. I haven't decided anything." He watched 3 challengers go up and come back down. A wrestler from the University of Miami, 220 pounds, lasted 4 seconds. A boxing coach from Overtown, with fast hands and a reasonable game plan, lasted 5.3, which was long enough to make the crowd start making noise. And then Harlan got his left arm behind the man's back, and the fight ended the same way they all ended. A retired Marine who told the announcer he had survived worse. 2.7 seconds. After the Marine, the announcer scanned the seats. Anyone else tonight? Last call. $80,000. 10 seconds. From the 19th row, Muhammad Ali stood up and raised his hand, the way a student raises his hand to answer a question in class. He said, clearly and without any performance in it, "I'll have a go." The row in front of him turned around first, then the row in front of that. Someone near the stage said the name, and the name moved through that building in about 4 seconds flat. Angelo was already on his feet, grabbing Ali's arm, walking and whispering at the same time. 215 pounds versus 490. This man does not care who you are. He grabs, and once he grabs, weight becomes a force that no amount of speed answers. Ali looked at Angelo and said, "Stand up and watch, that's all." He walked to the stage. The announcer had processed all kinds of challengers in 22 cities. He had not seen a man walk to his stage the way this one walked. Not cautious, not aggressive. The way a craftsman walks to a bench where the tools are already laid out. Ali gave his name and his weight. The announcer wrote down 215 pounds and moved on without comment. Harlan Colt watched from his corner. He assessed challengers the way a wall assesses the things thrown at it, which is to say he didn't, because he didn't need to. But he looked at this one a second time. Something about the feet. They weren't planted back and wide the way frightened people brace themselves. The weight was forward, slightly, just enough. The man looked like he was about to move somewhere, rather than absorb something. Harlan filed the thought away and closed the file. 215 pounds. He had handled 250. Ali bounced once on his toes at his corner, easy, checking the floor's give. He looked across at Harlan and smiled. Not the press conference smile, the private one. Then he said loud enough for the first few rows, "Son, I'm the fastest heavyweight alive. I'm telling you now, so you don't feel bad about what's coming." Harlan said nothing. He never spoke before a challenge. "All right," Ali said. "Just wanted to be fair." The bell rang. Harlan did what Harlan always did. He exploded forward, both arms wide, low, and committed. It was not complicated. It had never needed to be. The geometry of 490 pounds moving in a straight line is an argument with very few good answers. Every previous challenger had tried one of three things: freeze, retreat, or swing. None of those answers worked. Harlan was faster than he looked. The ring was smaller than it seemed, and the swing that might have meant something on the way in meant nothing once the grab had closed. Ali moved forward and to the left. Not far. About 18 inches. Just enough to not be where he had been when Harlan committed. Harlan's arms closed on empty air. His momentum carried him 2 steps past the point of contact and he stopped, which was something he had not done in 22 cities. He turned around. Ali was standing behind him and slightly to the left, hands still loose at his sides. That same expression. Harlan came again, faster, arms spread wider. Ali moved left again, and this time as Harlan's left arm swept past, Ali's right hand came up. 2 fingers, light contact on the inside of Harlan's wrist. Just enough to guide the arm 2 inches further along its arc than intended. Harlan's hands met each other behind the space where Ali had been. He had grabbed himself. 900 people in the Miami Beach Convention Hall did not make a sound. Harlan reset. He breathed. This had not happened before. He had never missed twice. He had never chased a challenger. Challengers came to him, got grabbed, ended. That was the structure. The only structure the last 3 years had ever required him to believe in. He came a third time with everything. No adjustment, no strategy, pure forward mass. Ali moved left, then moved in. Not away, toward. He stepped inside the arc of both arms, close enough that the reach became useless, and his right hand came up in a straight line toward the center of Harlan Colt's face. It stopped 1 inch from his jaw. Ali held it there and looked Harlan in the eyes. 3 seconds, maybe 4. Harlan's arms were still half raised, frozen mid-motion, and his breathing had changed, and everyone in the first 15 rows could hear exactly how it had changed. Then Ali lowered his hand. He stepped back. He looked out at the 900 people who were not making any noise. I was just dancing, he said. I didn't come here to hurt anybody. He stepped off the stage. The $80,000 stayed in the briefcase. Ali walked back up the aisle to where Drew Hendricks was standing, with his mouth open, and Angelo Dundee was standing with his eyes closed, shaking his head in the slow, deliberate way of a man who has decided to stop being surprised. Ali sat down. He picked up the program from his seat and looked at the number printed next to the challenge record. 175 challengers. He folded the program once and set it on the empty seat beside him. He never asked about the money. He never mentioned that night in any interview. 8 weeks later in Houston, he fought Cleveland Williams and spent 14 minutes doing something so precise that people studying it frame by frame decades later still struggled to fully explain it. But some of the men who had been in the convention hall that night were in Houston too, and they said afterward, among themselves, that they had already known, that the answer had been there in Miami before the famous fights and the exile and all the years that followed. The answer was not that Ali was fast. Everyone already knew that. The answer was what he did with the space his speed created. He didn't use it to run. He used it to choose. Every man who ever stepped across from him handed him a piece of information with every move, and by the time they understood that he had been reading them from the beginning, the conversation was already finished. Harlan Colt left Miami that night with his record technically unchanged. 175 challengers, 175 who didn't collect. The man from row 19 had stepped off the stage on his own before the 10 seconds were up, so no winner officially. The paperwork stayed clean, but everyone who was inside that building knew what they had seen. A man had walked into something designed to have no good answer and turned it into a problem he had already solved before the bell rang. Not because he was bigger or tougher, because he had understood that the fight was never about surviving the bull. It was about making the bull follow you somewhere the bull couldn't reach. Float like a butterfly. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see. He had been saying it for years. That September night in Miami, 900 people finally saw what the words actually meant. Tell us in the comments, when life backed you into a corner and the numbers were completely against you, did you freeze, did you swing, or did you find the option that wasn't on the list?